The baseball world has reached a boiling point. What two Arizona Diamondbacks players did to Shohei Ohtani on that field crossed every line that exists in professional baseball and then went several steps further into territory that nobody who loves this sport ever wanted to see directed at any player, let alone the greatest athlete the game has ever produced. A dangerous, illegal play. An insult delivered not just through words but through deliberate physical action designed to harm and to humiliate simultaneously. And then the shocking audio was released. Audio that removed every possible interpretation of accident or misunderstanding and replaced it with the undeniable reality of what these two players were thinking and what they were intending when they directed their actions at Ohtani. The entire nation is outraged. Not just the baseball community. The entire nation. Because what happened on that field transcended the boundaries of a sporting event and entered the territory of something that the broader public could not watch with indifference. Major League Baseball has responded with a punishment that reflects the severity of what occurred. 50-game suspensions for both players. Heavy fines that send a financial message commensurate with the organizational message the suspensions deliver. And the opposing manager is now facing consequences of his own that tell you the league has determined that this was not an isolated act of poor judgment from two individuals operating without any broader organizational awareness of what they were planning to do. What was your immediate reaction when you first saw what the Diamondbacks' second baseman and catcher did to Ohtani on that field, and when you understood the full nature of what the dangerous and illegal play actually involved? The initial viewing of the play is one thing. The immediate emotional response to watching a dangerous and illegal action directed at the most important player in baseball is something that every person watching experiences with visceral intensity. But it is when you watch it a second time, knowing what you now know from the audio that was subsequently released, that the full horror of what happened becomes truly apparent. Because the first viewing allows for the possibility, however slim, that what occurred was the product of competitive intensity crossing a line in the heat of a moment. The audio removes that possibility entirely. These two players knew exactly what they were doing. They discussed it. They coordinated it. And they executed it with a deliberateness that transforms what might otherwise have been a single incident of poor judgment into something that Major League Baseball correctly identified as requiring the maximum disciplinary response available under its existing rules. Let's talk about the specific nature of the dangerous and illegal play and why the combination of physical danger and deliberate insult makes this situation categorically different from the kinds of competitive misconduct that baseball has dealt with throughout its history. Dangerous plays happen in baseball. They always have. The aggressive base-running collision, the high fastball that gets away from a pitcher, the slide that arrives a fraction of a second late, these are the kinds of physical risks that players accept as part of the nature of the sport. What the Diamondbacks' second baseman and catcher did was not in any of those categories. It was illegal by the explicit rules of the game. It was dangerous in a way that created genuine risk of serious physical injury. And it was insulting in a way that added a dimension of personal degradation to an already unacceptable physical act. The combination of those three elements, illegal, dangerous, and deliberately insulting, is what makes this situation one of the most serious disciplinary cases the league has confronted in the modern era of professional baseball. From a league integrity perspective, what does the release of the shocking audio tell us about the planning and the intent behind what these two players did and about why Major League Baseball felt compelled to act with the speed and the severity it demonstrated in handing down the suspensions and fines? Audio evidence in a disciplinary case changes everything about how the incident can be evaluated and adjudicated. When two players are caught on audio discussing their intentions before executing an illegal and dangerous play directed at a specific opposing player, every argument about accident and spontaneity and competitive heat-of-the-moment behavior evaporates. The audio creates a clear record of premeditation. It establishes that the decision to target Ohtani with a dangerous and illegal play was made consciously and deliberately. And it means that the league's disciplinary process was not required to make judgments about intent based on circumstantial evidence and witness testimony alone. The audio was the evidence. And the evidence was damning in a way that made the 50-game suspensions and heavy fines not just justified but arguably the minimum appropriate response to what it revealed. Now let's examine what 50-game suspensions actually mean in competitive terms for the Arizona Diamondbacks, and what the loss of both a second baseman and a catcher simultaneously tells us about the magnitude of the punishment MLB chose to impose. 50 games is a significant portion of a baseball season. It is not a token suspension designed to satisfy the appearance of accountability while minimally disrupting the offending team's competitive operations. It is a punishment that will be felt in the standings. A team losing both a middle infield position and a catching position simultaneously for 50 games faces genuine competitive consequences that will play out over months rather than days. And those competitive consequences are inseparable from the disciplinary message they carry. Major League Baseball is telling every player and every organization in professional baseball that protecting the integrity of the game and protecting the safety and the dignity of its players will be prioritized over competitive convenience regardless of the stage of the season and regardless of which players are involved. The entire nation being outraged is a phrase that carries genuine meaning in this specific situation because the reaction to what happened to Ohtani on that field has genuinely extended beyond the baseball community in a way that very few in-game incidents ever do. Ohtani occupies a unique cultural position in American professional sports. He is not just the best baseball player alive. He is a figure who has crossed the boundaries of sport and entered the consciousness of a much broader public as a symbol of what is possible when extraordinary talent is matched with extraordinary character and extraordinary work ethic. When something is done to him that the entire baseball world finds unacceptable, the reaction extends to every person who has been touched by his story, regardless of whether they can name the batting average threshold for the Cy Young Award or explain the difference between a sweeper and a slider. The opposing manager facing consequences is the element of this situation that reveals the most about how Major League Baseball assessed the organizational context in which this incident occurred. Managers are held accountable for the culture and the conduct of their players because they are the people most directly responsible for setting the standards that govern how their teams compete. When a manager faces consequences in the wake of an incident like this, it means the league has determined that either the manager was aware of what was being planned and failed to prevent it, or that the culture the manager has created inside that organization created an environment where players felt comfortable planning and executing the kind of dangerous and illegal targeted action that was directed at Ohtani. Either finding carries serious implications for that manager's standing and authority within his organization. What does Ohtani's response to all of this tell us about the kind of competitor and the kind of person he is in the face of one of the most serious incidents of targeted aggression that any player in this sport has experienced in the modern era? Ohtani's response to what happened to him on that field, the way he carried himself through the immediate aftermath, the way he has spoken about the incident when asked, and the way he has continued to compete with the same focus and the same professionalism that defines every other aspect of his presence in this sport, is itself a statement about what the Diamondbacks failed to achieve with their dangerous and illegal play and their deliberate insult. They tried to shake him. They tried to disrupt him. They tried to diminish him. And the audio they left behind as evidence of their intentions is now the permanent record of who they revealed themselves to be in that moment. While Ohtani continues to be exactly who he has always been, the entire nation is outraged. The suspensions have been handed down. The fines have been levied. The manager faces his own consequences. And Shohei Ohtani takes the field again and continues to be the most extraordinary player in professional baseball. The story of this incident will be part of the permanent record of this season. But so will what Ohtani did in response to it. And what he did in response was simply to keep being Shohei Ohtani.